Hello, this is Coach Lydia Knight, and we are ending eating disorders and freeing women from every cage. And freedom is disconnecting your struggle with food from your past trauma. And I just want to be really real with you for a second, because this is very important, and this is something we have to stop perpetuating the lie of. Here's the lie. The lie is that eating disorders somehow stem from trauma. And until you overcome all of your past trauma, then you're still going to have an eating disorder. And until you go to 25 years of therapy and sort through all of that trauma, then you have no hope of never even looking at getting better, but no hope of even being able to manage it. And looking at this, we have proven it to be untrue thousands of times. Eating disorders, no matter how they started, are not perpetuated by past trauma. They are perpetuated by the habits that get created around food and the habits of thought, and you can break those and be 100% free and done. And it is so damaging to tell women, because a lot of women have trauma because we are women who live in this society, a society that treats women badly. And so there's a lot of trauma there, and it's not okay. And it's something that we should absolutely change in our world. But we must stop telling women that they are hopeless to fix other problems in their life because someone else hurt them at some point. It's insane because it's not true. And it just gives women this huge mountain to climb of like, well, you've got to face your past trauma, and you've got to forgive the people that have hurt you, and you've got to go to all of this therapy, and you've got to sort everything out. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't sort through your trauma and that you shouldn't, go through whatever helps you and supports you, but it's not this, it's this. It's separate. You can 100% end an eating disorder and not have an eating disorder anymore without ever looking at or touching or sorting through any of your past trauma. In fact, we had a grad that came to us that had just such horrible, awful, traumatic background. And she was told by a professional, and I'll put that in quotes, that she could never hope to be done with her eating disorder until she sorted through and looked at all of her past trauma. So she chose to keep her eating disorder. That's how awful her trauma was. She would rather have an eating disorder than have to look through all of the memories of all the horrible ways that she had been treated and hurt. And she broke into tears when she came to us. And she said, "Thank you for saving my life." Because when she heard that we could end her eating disorder and show her how to be free for the rest of her life without ever having to look at her trauma, she was so thrilled and had so much hope because of that. And she came to us, and in a matter of weeks, she was done with her struggle with food. And it just so happens, because she got all of her energy and her emotional energy and her mental energy and all of that back, that she was actually able to do a lot of really beautiful work in her life around that. But it was not from a place of have to. It was from a solid place of freedom, because she got freedom with food, and then she was able to have energy for other things. We had another woman that came to us. It was in our late 60s. I believe when she graduated, she was 67 years old. We coach a lot of women who've struggled for over 40 years. And so, we coach a lot of women in their 60s, their 70s. And so at 67 years old, as she's graduating, she said, and she had never told us about her past trauma, because why would we ask? It has nothing to do with her eating disorder. But she shared with us, she said, a beautiful part of being free is to know that the people that hurt me when I was younger, the people that aren't even alive anymore, that every time that I would binge, I would just think, wow, this person, even though they're not living, they're still controlling me. The trauma that they gave me from my past is still controlling me, and look how I'm eating over it. And she's like, now that I'm free from my struggle with food, I know that those people had no control over me. That the people that hurt me had nothing to do with how I was eating. It was just a habit that I could break. Freedom is knowing that your trauma, although awful and although valid and although you should be supported and loved through all of it, any effect that you're having of it, but that it has nothing to do with this problem with food, and that you don't have to focus on all these other things that aren't going to make a difference, and you can actually focus on the thing that will make a difference. And we've had the women come to us that have gone to literally 25 years of therapy every single week, sorting through their trauma. And over that time, they gained 100 pounds, and their relationship with food only got worse. And this woman that I'm thinking of, one of our grads, she came to us, she's like, Lydia, there's nothing else to talk about. There's nothing else to talk about. I've sorted through all the trauma. Hooray. But it never fixed my relationship with food, and that was the reason that I started all of this stuff, all of the therapy, the 25 years, a quarter of a century, to try to fix a problem with food by sorting through her trauma. She sorted through her trauma. She never fixed the problem with food. She came to us, and in 6 weeks, she was free and done. That is freedom. And for your next step to freedom, go to lifewithlydia.com.